Welcome to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get practical guidance for not only surviving, but thriving with the cosmic tides. Your birth chart is a calendar, one that's unique to you because it's a picture of the heavens at the moment of your birth. You can think of it as a screenshot of the sky, your sky, and this individualized star map will guide you throughout your entire life. It tells you when you're in season or out, and when it's a good time to start a venture or think better of it. It shows you grace periods where you can breeze right past obstacles, and it gives you a heads up on future rough patches where you can expect resistance. And that was one of my favorite passages from Christopher Renstrom's book, The Cosmic Calendar. The book outlines a way to turn your birth chart into a calendar that's uniquely aligned with your natural flow and personal seasons. I couldn't help but imagine how amazing it would be if Christopher could teach an online course based on the content, providing an opportunity to teach the content live, answer your questions as you apply the ideas in your life, and hold your hand as you map out your personal cosmic calendar. I'm happy to announce that dream has come true and registration for the Cosmic Calendar online course is now open. No more feeling like you're swimming against the tide as you try to accomplish things before the time is right, or missing windows of opportunity because you weren't ready to take action. Now's the time to experience having the full support of the universe behind you. Enrollment is now open. Class begins in March, and you can go to astrologyhub.com/cosmic calendar to reserve your spot today. And Inner Circle members, be sure to check your membership portal for your discount code. Again, that's astrologyhub.com/cosmic calendar. We can't wait to see you in class. All right, well, here we are. I'm so grateful to be here with all of you for our weekly weather, and so happy to be here with astrologer Stormie Grace. And I'm so glad you're back, Stormie. And backward, like, your name is kind of appropriate, I think, for this week, huh? So Stormie, and let's find some grace, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. And I actually have to say, I think that there's a lot of grace available this week. I think it requires a lot of moving with some integrity and quite intentionally, but we've got a good burst of energy of a lot of forward motion to be as graceful with those around us and ourselves as we can. So yes.
That's good. That's good. All right. One note on the cosmic calendar before we dive in. So Christopher's class, it starts this week. So it starts on Thursday. If you want to join us, now is definitely the time to do it. That's astrologyhub.com/cosmic calendar. Okay. So Stormie, let's talk more about this. Let's look at the week ahead. You are seeing storm clouds, right? I mean, this is like a real intense culminating moment, correct?
I think that is what has been said.
Ooh,
I actually think that as I look at this week that's going to lead us into the first week of March and everything creeps us towards a new season, depending on where you're living, and the fact that it's a new moon week. It's actually a week where the clouds are there. It's not new. We still are dealing with a lot of positions that were activated during the retrogrades that we've seen as we came into 2022. But this week holds a real beacon of hope around that, because the actions that are available or the pockets of energy to take different actions that are available, I think reduce some of the cloud cover, honestly. And that is a big thing I've been dealing with over here, is kind of speaking against some of my fellows, saying, yeah, it's a week where there's a lot we could be looking at that is entirely complicated, but we've also got the lovers coming into connection with the North Node. And I don't know what we could be using that's more powerful than that level of love and that level of integrity to move forward, right? There's plenty of chaos going on, plenty all over the world. But in our own personal lives, in our own personal communities, we have an opportunity to use some of these aspects to decrease some of the storm, or at least carry some pretty cool umbrellas.
Wow, I love this. Okay, so what would you say is the theme for the week then? What's that overarching anchor for us?
I think the big anchor is I move with integrity, purpose, with new ideas and solutions, right? Because the old ones are not going to work. They're simply not going to work. And we've been shown some things personally in our lives. And we've been shown some things in our communities that are old ideas that we've been trying to play out. We've been shown things in the media and we're questioning those things. We've been shown things in our personal behaviors and our home. And it's like that old idea, that old attitude is not going to work anymore. So I have to have the courage to move towards different foundations, right? To move towards some different actions. So I really think that that's the key this week.
Okay, and let's start. Let's go through the transits. Which ones are you basing your theme and your message around?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, happy March. That's exciting.
Yay!
I think like we made it, you guys. We made it out of like super high retrograde period. And I don't know about you, Amanda, but I feel like the world went on pause between November and February, where it was just like, yeah, just hang out right here. We'll just be right here.
Completely. Like, and even pause and almost like quicksand. Like
Yeah.
it was, yes, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were a lot of feels to deal with under that. Karmic situations were brought back to our tables. And also this idea of I just need to get out of here, but there's nowhere for me to go has been an energy I think is very prevalent. So as we're coming around into a new moon week, so keep that in mind, especially if you are moon sensitive. We've got that on the table that's stirring, and you may feel that energy anywhere from 3 to 5 days before the event actually happens. So we've got a new moon week on our hands, but more than that, we come in right here, March 1st, with both Mars and Venus in this gorgeous trine to the North Node, right? This is phenomenal energy because what it acts is like a love bomb, really. It's like, hey, you've got an opportunity to do something productive, to move with a different sense of integrity towards that North Node, new foundations, different relationships with yourself, your others, your resources. And the trine provides a pocket of opportunity, right? It just opens it up. It makes it so easy, actually, that you could miss it. You could just breeze right by it. But the best use of a trine is to realize an opportunity is being presented for me here. And usually it's another person that'll walk right into your space or an idea that challenges you, right? And you have to go to the opportunity. You have to, under this energy, enact the love. Let yourself be a little afraid, a little excited to act in integrity, right? But breathe that North Node hope into whatever it is that you're doing. I think that's a really important thing. And to help, right? To help have a different response in whatever situation presents itself. We've also got the sun coming into a sextile with Uranus later that day. And anybody who follows me knows that I love it when the planets have sex. That's good for us because it requires an intimate action on our part. Not only have we been presented with the pocket of ease or opportunity, but now we're going to take intelligent action. And with the sun at our backs, I'm motivated. I'm naturally got a motivation to move in this direction. But Uranus is like, you got to move different, friend. You got to move different. You got to think different. How are we going to progress here? What's your own personal breakthrough with what's right in front of you? Have you spent weeks listening to, hearing, believing these things, and now you realize you maybe got to go out beyond your comfort zone and find out what's really going on? You know, you can't keep showing up with people in your lives and being like, they're just sucking the life out of me. Maybe this breakthrough is you realize you kept giving them the straw, right? Like there's some breakthroughs that I think are very available if we act in integrity, but you get help to move towards that North Node of new relationships, new foundations right here as we're bursting into March. And to me, I think that that is profound because it means advancement.
So, Stormy, when you say act in integrity, what do you mean by that? Because I know that integrity can have a lot of different tones and definitions for people. So, when you're saying act in integrity, what do you mean by that?
What I mean is, whenever I think about actions in integrity, I think if this moment right here for me is the last one I get, and I've got to be accountable to whatever powers that be. Can I be okay with the decisions that I've made? Can I be okay with the actions that I'm taking? You know, if a 5-year-old with those pure innocent eyes is watching me act and react in my life, can I feel like a good person standing in front of that? Not a comfortable person, right? Because that's not always integrity either, to not take action because it makes me comfortable. But integrity, I genuinely believe from my internal systems that this is the best decision. This is the best whatever I'm doing right now. That to me is the speaking of integrity. And there has to be some searching for truth if you're going to act in integrity. And what's the truth in your life, in your home, in your community? That's for each of us to have these breakthroughs that I think Sun Uranus really provide to us as a progressive way of thinking about situations that have been in play for a while.
Okay, so we have a new moon week. We have Mars and Venus trine to the North Node on March 1st.
Yes.
We have the Sun sextile Uranus. And what's the date of that? March 1st also?
March 1st. This is all on March 1st. We're just getting in. We're just bringing March in nice and hot, with some activity. But then we progress just a day down the road. We're going to get to Wednesday, and we've got a really nice connection between Mercury and Saturn. Now, on one hand, Mercury, Saturn coming together is phenomenal, because if you needed to do a lot of mental shuffling and flipping around and thinking and going through details and stuff like that, this is delicious, because you can really focus into what's going on. It is like the mind gets crystallized. So being able to find the pattern, come to a logical solution, any of these things become an opportunity. But depending on the state of your being and how you use it, it can feel heavy. It can make you doubt your thinking, which I just said, we've got Monday that is asking us to bring in this week of integrity through progressive new behaviors and actions. Maybe you needed to doubt your thinking. How many of us are having to go, well, wait a minute. Do I really think that, or do I think that because somebody taught me to think that? Right? So it can feel a little bit heavy wherever it takes you. I would say research. Use Mercury, Saturn to research. And if this happens to be, if you feel like life has been heavy for a little bit and you've been struggling, research what's the root of that. And sometimes that requires another set of eyes to help us do that. The thing I think about, Amanda, is that when I'm going through it, or anytime ever, really, the only thing I can't see in a room is me. So sometimes I need another person to help me do that research. But it's a great day. Whatever you're looking for is likely to be found. And so we're going to have a new moon beautifully in a dark sky, because that's when a new moon is, at 12 degrees of Pisces. So first and foremost, we think about the new moon. When the luminaries are together, the sky is dark. So we're planting our seeds of intention in the soil of magic, and it is fertile. It's fertile. Okay, friends? So for good or for ill, what you plant here, you're going to work on for just a little bit. That's why I suggest for the first 8 hours after the moon, if you're participating, just be mindful of what you're planting. And also don't be afraid to plant something that you need to grow through or you need answers to, right? Because Piscean energy is likely the way you begin something new here is you learn what you have to surrender to begin something new, right? That's a beautiful feature of Pisces, is the fearlessness of surrender. I surrender to win here, because what I've been doing doesn't have the most integrity. Instead, there's something else available for me. And also, the new moon in Pisces moves me from this position of the victim into the victor, right? Like, I love that. And sometimes it's not that terrible situations have been going on, but I've been holding back too long and I really haven't been painting, or I forgot that I like to dance, and it's like, yeah, I have to surrender a little bit in order to have the space to step into that. And I think that Mercury and Saturn in their conjunction here beautifully help to investigate that, right? Like, is this really stopping me from moving forward, or is this really effective for me moving forward? Those are great questions. Not to mention, we also see that the moon is in conjunction with Jupiter. Jupiter wants to have your expansion here, and he's completely comfortable in the energy of Pisces. So there's a nice generosity that's available at this particular moon. So I like it. Plant your seeds of intention. It's a potent time.
And would you say, with the positioning of Jupiter there, that what we're focused on is going to expand and grow?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Jupiter just, that's what that energy is about. But in the expansion of it, where it's not just this boundless spinning out expansion that we can sometimes see with Uranus, where it just blows all your things to shambles. Jupiter is wisdom, right? And Jupiter in someone's chart says, here, you're innately kind of equipped with this. Now take it out to the world and share your wisdom. So there's wisdom in this moon. By putting it down, what you're learning and you're seeing, you need to confront, to surrender. The wisdom from that will allow you to expand this particular area. So wherever that's out in your chart, you'll have new wisdom, new integrity, and probably progressive thought to bring to that area.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that, Stormy. I just heard a definition of wisdom being knowledge with heart. So knowledge with heart is wisdom. And the other thing that I'm thinking about as you're speaking is with this fertile soil, being mindful of what we're planting. I was listening to, I often bring up Michael Beckwith. I was listening to one of his talks at Agape, and he was talking about how we have the right to remain silent. And what he meant is, be mindful of the energy that you're putting out with your words. So like if you're looking around at the world and it worries you and you have fears and you have concerns, spewing that everywhere may not be the most beneficial seed to be planting for yourself and everybody else that comes into contact with you.
Mm-hmm.
That you can actually hold that and work with it inside yourself instead of planting it all around you. So it seems important, especially with this Jupiter, the Jupiter influence, to be very mindful of what we're choosing to focus our attention and our words on. That doesn't mean you put your head in the sand and you pretend like nothing's happening.
Right.
Don't do that. And it doesn't also mean that you have to squash all your feelings down. It's just being very conscious of the energy that we're putting out there, and knowing that sometimes it might just be better to remain silent in a situation instead of putting the things on other people, putting the worries, putting the fears, putting the doubts on other people.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because Pisces is also an energy of service. You know, it's like it's the service or die sign. And so sometimes I agree, we have to sit in the dark. You know, sometimes you got to go in there and have tea with your demons and find out they're kind of okay, right? They're telling you and pointing you towards something within you that is stimulated or is attached to particular outcomes. And as we are offered this opportunity to sit and to be with that, we have the gift of magic and creation to allow this to take a different form by surrendering it. And I think at the end of the day, Amanda, I don't know if you would agree with this, or if the listeners would agree. I think in the end, we're just worried. Humans are like, am I going to die? Right? Like, this is the root level fear of, am I going to perish? You know? And so getting to sit with attachments to these ideas of, I'm going to lose something, or it's going to be taken, or I'm going to die, and getting honest about where we're at with our genuine connection of the universe. You know, am I floating around this place still believing I'm separate from this universe? I think that's a place that when you sit in the dark, you get to answer those questions and see if you can get right with that vibration.
I completely agree. And it's the realization I had the other day. It was like, that the real fear here is it's survival. It's just straight up, I'm afraid for my life. I'm afraid for my children. I'm afraid for everybody that I love and know. Just afraid about death. And whenever I get to that point of real honesty, the conclusion I get is, then I better be living life fully now. Because there are no guarantees ever. No matter what's happening in the world, this could be my last day. So if it is, wouldn't it be great to really live it? Really live it, really love, really express, really show up as much as possible.
Right. And let the universe do the heavy lifting. And that's, I think, a real journey in humanity and some spiritual freedom. as well, that I'm actually not responsible for so much that I run around out there doing. And what do we find out at this moon and in my patterning? That I'm doing too much and I need to let the universe do that heavy lifting. So there's so many avenues of creation, which is also why, though, when you said, okay, we kind of got a storm on the table this week, I'm like, do we? Because there's opportunities for magic. The world is going to do what it's going to do, but we're here investing in astrology so we can find ways to use the magical influences available to us to create something else. So is this a stormy week? Maybe, maybe not.
Stormie, would you say, because I'm remembering back to the 2022 forecast event, and there was this time period of March, April that the astrologers were really putting a lot of attention on because of the Jupiter-Neptune in Pisces conjunction, and this big Jupiter-Neptune Pisces like swirl of energy. And I remember thinking, it sounds like there's going to be a serious choice point at that point in time where we could choose to focus on all of the negative, ugly, scary things happening in the world. Or we could really dig deep and find a way to continue focusing on all of the good and the grace and the beauty and reimagining our future. And it will feel hard to do that. That's what I was thinking back in December when you all were talking about March, April of this year. And that's what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
It's a stormy week, or is it? There's a lot of hard intensity, or is there? This is happening in the world. What are you doing with it? That's what I hear you saying, is there is this choice point for each of us as individuals to be mindful of the energy and the frequency that we are carrying, and we are expanding with our own awareness.
Absolutely. That is 1,000% what I'm saying, because I am just, mindful of the hyperinflation of everything that is available to us. Jupiter and Neptune coming together will further that, but also under that influence, even though we'll get to that in a little bit, it will also reality check every single one of us. And it will be the point, I think, where we're tasked with understanding that, yes, we can want this reality. Anything's possible. Anything we want is possible next. But what are we going to do to get there? Do we have the resources? Do we have the common consciousness amongst us to get to where we'd like to go? And those will be absolute questions. Now, I can tell you too, for me, the other reason, I'm so pumped about March and April is that we have the most forward motion that we're going to get. So we need to be mindful of that. Now, March, I think, does a lot of forward motion on decisions that we saw between November and February because we were on hold for so long. Now we can take some action on moving those forwards because we were shown some things. We were brought karmic lessons, gut-wrenching lessons to each of our tables, whatever it was, I think, for some surrender or to figure out if we're going to still engage it. And in March, we get to do that. And then in April, we get to start to encounter some new things, which is very exciting. And actually, this week starts to kick that off because Venus gets out of Capricorn. So it's just like, oh my God, is this new? Is this new stuff? It's very exciting, I think.
Okay, so we're all the way through Wednesday.
Yes. Okay. So then we get to Thursday and we have got a driven energy on our table. And how you use this is really, you get to see what you're made of under this energy. We have Mars and Pluto coming together in a conjunction. Now, these two are driven. That is the word. This is a driven, intense energy. It is ambitious. It is sexy. It is all of these really big words, but it's also quite powerful when they come together. On the global stage, I think that we will see this used in some intensity in a mundane way, but also in personal ways. If you are driving towards something that you're ambitious toward, you've seen it. We've seen progression and we've seen innovation available this week. We've even seen an optimism that could be on the table, right? These two, it's like, okay, I can take actions that move me away from self-sabotage. I can take actions that are insightful enough to move me in integrity. And I love that because this is the energy where it's like, chase your dreams, be the change you want to see. This is that. This is that. Go get it. Use Mars and Pluto and go get it, but also we can see depending on where you're at, and it's not right or wrong. It's just where you're at in your lessons, and you'll know the lower vibration of this is I'm trying to coerce somebody into doing something, or I'm trying to push and power my way to get something to fit that maybe doesn't really fit, but I've decided it should fit. And that's challenging, right? Either one of these directions create, I think, major transformation, but there's also this delicious ability to move towards what you're passionate about with this energy. So what are you going to do with that? That's so cool. I just think it's so cool. And then we have, Venus is also mixed into this conjunction because those two are traveling together. And Venus is that attracting energy. You don't have to hustle Venus. You really don't. She'd prefer that you don't, actually. So you just have to attract. Let the opportunities come to you. Act in a transformational way. Be passionate about what comes to your table, but do it with integrity. What have you learned about yourself since November that you can show up in a way that actually leads to progress under this energy? So I love that. And Venus is just Venus. Sometimes she just likes to bring money. That's nice. I like that vibration.
Okay, so what have you learned since November? Okay, attracting opportunities, being passionate, and in integrity. Beautiful. So what about the Friday, Saturday, Sunday? What do we have going on there?
All right, as we're coursing and we're getting ready and we're going to come through the weekend, first of all, we've got Sun coming into a conjunction with Jupiter. This is always nice. You just like to have, these are I feel like the best cousins that come together, and it's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever, So when Sun and Jupiter come together, optimism is first of all the word. It's like motivation meets optimism meets manifest something delicious. Okay, because the Sun is motivated to get it going. I've got vitality here. I can really do this. And Jupiter's like, oh, that's cool. Let me take it out. I'll take that out here for you. So you've got this position of, I've seen a lot of things. I've also had this new moon. I've seen some things that don't work for me. Even if I'm not sure where to go with that next, I can manifest an answer. I can ask for an answer. I can ask for help. I can ask for a guru, for a mentor, for a teacher. I can ask for wisdom. The application of wisdom, which the way I gain wisdom is having an experience. Usually I do it wrong. And then I know that that's not the way to do that. So sometimes that's the greatest use for it. But I do want to point out the optimism that is available with Jupiter and the Sun, because it's quite big under this energy, but also it makes things expand. So if you've got something in your life that you've been called to that surrender to, or you've been called to sit in the dark with it for a time, this will create a magnifying glass where you go, oh, it's this, or you're available to do that.
So Stormie, for everybody that's tuning into the world stage and feeling like, what about the people over there? It doesn't seem super optimistic for those people or people in this circumstance, or for people feeling any sort of sense of foreboding or weariness about what's playing out.
Absolutely.
I don't even have to finish the question.
Yeah, no, I get it, because it's quite right. We're sitting here and maybe we're living our best lives and it feels really good and we're not being bombed or any of these things. So it's like, yeah, that seems like a really nice woo-woo forecast. Couple things I want to draw attention to is, first of all, you can only be where you're at. You can only do you. And to the best of the ability that you do that creates the wave of change in the people and the communities next to you, right? This is a transit of warmth. And if the best you've got in your position, looking at what's happening over there, or what's happening for your neighbor, or what's going on for your kids, holding a position of wisdom that you cannot fix everything for everyone, you can simply be a part of the solution. That is a great way to use this particular energy, right? It's an opportunity for growth. And I think a piece of the growth that it's available to all of us is to understand the part you can actually play, right? And for our friends who are in these positions, this gets challenging, right? We don't want pain for our fellows. But who are we to tell the universe that it's doling out the wrong lessons. That is Jupiter in arrogance, right? We have all come with charts and come with destinies and lessons that have to be fulfilled under the circumstances that they do. We don't have to make it worse, but to tell the universe it is handing out its lessons inaccurately is to say that we know better. And if you know better, go out there and make it better. And if you can't, own your space. Own your space so that the people around you can learn to do that in their growth as well. And then that's how I think we affect change, in bigger ways.
Stormie, thank you for that. And I've been thinking about this too, just experiencing my own reaction and response.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do anybody any good when I'm in that. I always talk about the ocean and being in the whitewash, and how when we're all tumbling around in the whitewash together, we're all going to drown.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you can, and if you're able, staying above the water and helping in all the other ways that you can is much more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe some people are called to meditate or pray for the circumstances that are happening. I also think about the fact that what's playing out right now that we don't like is somebody else's dream.
Absolutely.
It's somebody else's dream that is externalized and is actually happening in this form. And so we need to outdream them. We need to outdream what's possible here and really bring those dreams to this planet. And when we do that, then perhaps we won't have to keep living in these circumstances or witnessing these atrocities and just stand by and feel hopeless about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you're saying. It's like, where do you have responsibility? Where can you actually respond? And normally for most of us, it's our direct influence, our direct sphere of influence, which is ourselves, the people around us, the people in our communities. So how are we showing up there?
Yeah.
And we can be in compassion and empathy without being in that whitewash also. Just doing our best to fortify our own selves so that we can stand strong for the people that need it the most when they need it.
Absolutely. Because I don't know about you, but in any given situation, I'm working with the best information I have typically from my perspective. And because it's my perspective doesn't mean that it's what's right.
Right.
And we've got a lot of that right now of what is even the accurate information. So am I over here in a spin out about what's going on in the world and the state of the affairs? And I'm not actually sure that that's really what's going on. But meanwhile, my laundry would like my attention. My children would love for me to get off of the internet and spend time with them. I'm living with a person who is supposed to be my spouse, but we're actually acting like roommates. Maybe there's other things for me to tend to that the wisdom says, do your house first, and then we can move out.
Powerful. Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Anything else for the week that we need to be paying attention to?
Yes. Oh my goodness. That was just the start of Saturday, and look at where we've been. Okay. But so we also have on Saturday, the lovers, Mars and Venus on the move. Mars moves into the energy of Aquarius, and then about 8 minutes later, we'll see Venus move in. Now, I'm pumped for Mars to move into Aquarius. It doesn't always love to be in an air energy because Mars is like, I want to just go straight at things. And in air, it has to do a lot of things, right? So not always the most comfortable position for Mars, but Mars in Aquarius is willing to experiment, willing to take actions that's like, I don't know, but let's just do it anyways. Let's just go see. So that's to our favor. And really, it's not always that I have to take to the streets. And sometimes you're called to take to the streets. If that's your role, get your sign. Right? But sometimes it's just that I take a different action in my home, or I take a different action with my thinking, or, I stop thinking that I'm going to think myself into better thinking, and I act my way into different thinking. So whatever it is, Mars gets inventive, and it does get rebellious in this energy. So we're going to take advantage of that. But it also, there's kind of this vibe of like live and let live. but Venus's move into Aquarius. This is where I'm like, everybody get your beverage of choice and let's celebrate, because it means we are officially moving forward. February 24th, we saw Mercury come out of its post-retrograde shadow time, so we were released forward. Now Venus moving out of Capricorn, like, oh my God, you're going to be looking around being like, this is all new. This is so great. Just because you're not looking at Capricorn things anymore, so it's really a lovely energy. But again, Venus in Aquarius with all that newness is an attracting energy. Attract your tribe, attract your vibration. Be curious. Let your heart be curious about what's going on. Be curious about different ways to make money or to use resources or to allot resources. Or, am I the only one struggling with this? And I can look around my community and allow information to be drawn to us. And I think that's a phenomenal use of this energy. Venus is still Venus, friends. So you could have friends that aren't just friends anymore. Maybe try that out. That's some nice experimenting.
Right. Yes, totally. Okay, so this is amazing because I feel like for the last, I don't know how many weeks, it's like there's forward motion, but you're not really feeling it yet. Like, yes, we're moving forward, but it's not really going to feel like that. And so now you're saying this is go time. Like we are actually feeling it.
Yes, I think we really needed Mercury to release post-retrograde shadow time. And again, mark on your calendars what was happening. That was February 24th that we came out of that. And we needed Venus to go ahead and move on. And the cool thing about it is that now I think because it's like, well, that's weird. These people are weird. This is different. And it's even like within yourself, you're like, yeah, I've never responded in that way. And it's kind of weird. But that's progress. That's progress. And I am telling you, friends could become lovers. It happens all the time with Venus and Aquarius.
Aha.
So if that's the thing, and Mars is there, so there could be some things with your body. Yay for you.
Some passionate things. Yes. All right.
So I celebrate for you. Okay, and so as we're going to wrap up this week, though, and we're coming into Sunday, we've got Venus and Mars again in a tight conjunction with each other. So the lovers, when they're together, it's not the same energy as when we have a new moon and like anything's possible. Instead, it's the bringing together of the yin and the yang. Right? It's the everything. So I feel like as we're closing out the week, we've seen a lot. We've been tasked with a lot. And Venus and Mars coming together is like, I'm everything. I am everything. I am my light. I am my dark. I am everything. And we get to be with that energy and realizing that the maturity and recognizing all sides of ourself brings progress. Right there together in Aquarius. I also around the world will not be surprised if we see the joining of groups of people coming together quite passionately for a cause, or coming together quite passionately for maybe even healing. These are things. There's a need for some sort of affection deeply when Venus and Mars come together. So, intimate relationships. We've had this delusion that's been put on us, I think, for quite some time, that we are separate from the universe, from each other, and there's a coming back that I think is available under this energy. So I'm very, very excited to end the week this way.
I can see why you're optimistic, Stormie. I mean, a lot of it is your choice and perspective to focus on the things that are invitations, uplifting invitations of each of these astrological aspects. It sounds to me too, you're almost interpreting the astrology purely without getting caught up in the external whatever appears to be happening, right? It's like if I was just looking at the astrology purely, this is exactly the way that I would interpret it.
Absolutely. That's the deal for me with astrology, is to just look at the astrology. It's the same reason when we do charts of people. I can just look at the astrology without thinking about the person, because it's just the energy that is available. And we're in some tender times right now as people. So being reality checked over and over again to be like, well, do you know that that's the truth? And having to stand with, oh, maybe I don't, right? Like that puts it into the hands of just the astrology, and you just do what you know how to do. So it kind of creates that nice separation that I think becomes available for all of us.
that it's very Aquarian in that way. When I think of it that way, it's like we can detach a little bit and look at it from that Aquarius perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And we cannot all be crazy at the same time. Like there have to be some lifeguards on duty out here. You know what I mean? My God, we will crash this planet if we all just get on one. Like I can't go there.
It's true. Stormie, thank you so much for bringing this. So basically, you're seeing this, there's a beacon of hope that is reducing the cloud cover. That's how you started out. A beacon of hope, reducing the cloud cover, that we have the lovers, Mars and Venus at the North Node. This is a time to move with integrity, with purpose, with new ideas and solutions. The old ways of doing things, of thinking about things, of getting caught up in things, they're not working, and it's time to change. It's time to do something very different than we've done before. This is a new moon week, so we have Mars and Venus. Oh wait, no, sorry. Okay, you said that on March 1st we have a love bomb, which is an opportunity to do something productive. We also have Sun sextile Uranus, which is intimate action. It'll be motivated, again, this idea of moving differently. So I think paying attention to all the habitual things that you're doing, and I think a lot of us probably have developed some habits in the last 2 years that we could probably let go of at this point. And one of those being maybe addiction to needing to be knowing what's going on all the time. It's like, is that serving? Could I like just allocate a certain amount of the day where I'm tuning into what's going on in the external world? And then there's a certain amount of time where I'm tuning into what's going on in my internal world. And then I'm really focusing on my family and those around me, like you brought up so brilliantly before. So how are we going to move differently? This is a time to have your own personal breakthrough.
Yeah.
This is a time to really question, can I be okay with my decisions? Am I okay with my decisions? If this was my last day, if a 5-year-old, I love those examples you gave. If they were watching me, would I still feel good about what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Very big, like gut check moments, right? And if the answer is no, then it's like, okay, well, I have this energy behind me to actually make some changes and do it differently now.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we have on Wednesday, Mercury and Saturn, focus on the details. It can feel heavy, doubtful, but your antidote to that was to do research and to ask other people and to really get your feelers out there. And it sounds to me like you're advocating for us to find ways to get a different perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially there at the new moon, because you may have to sit in the dark with some things. And it's much easier to sit in the dark when you know you're not the only one in the dark.
Very true. Yes. All right. Then we have this fertile soil on the actual new moon. What do you have to surrender to plant something new? Great new moon question. What do you have to surrender in order to plant something new? We have Thursday is a driven energy, progression, innovation, take actions that move me away. Is that right?
I think it's just take passionate action.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a better way to say that with Pluto, Mars, just because they're so driven, but also be mindful that you're not using your charm or powers that be to coerce something to be that is not naturally Venus attracting in. If it's supposed to be, it will land with ease. If not, you're forcing, let it go.
I love that. And you can feel that in your body, right? When you're forcing something versus just allowing something, it's like, God, I'm really pushing this versus, okay, like this has its own timing. This has its own pace. I'm going to allow that.
Right.
Okay. So then you have optimism with the Sun-Jupiter conjunction. You can only do you. This is a transit of warmth. You cannot fix everyone and everything and assume that you know how to fix everyone and everything. This is actually a time where we can live that, be a part of the solution sort of idea that we hear all the time. And we are officially moving forward. So we have Mars and Venus moving into Aquarius. This is a time to experiment, take on the live and let live kind of mentality and attract your tribe. Be curious about differences. Be curious in general. I think that's probably a be curious.
Yeah, be curious and be friendly. For God's sakes, Aquarius is a friendly energy. Go out there and maybe you just contribute to the greater good by being friendly.
Oof,
you know, and that's kind of, if people I think are honest, since we've been locked in, it's a little bit harder to be around our fellow beings because we do have some walls up. So go out and be friendly.
And that can mean just like smile. Like if you're in a place where you're not doing masks anymore, it's like now smile, like take advantage of the fact that we don't have them anymore, right?
Yeah.
So
go to the grocery store, gather carts, put them in the cart holder, right? Like contribute to the greater good in some way. And it brings a sense of optimism, right? I'm a part of this. This is justice.
This is justice. I love it. Okay. And intimate relationships could be a big focus, and friends turning into lovers and all these things. So so much content for us to work with this week. I mean, we are definitely not lacking opportunities to work with the cosmic curriculum, work with the astrology, and make the choice for how we're going to work with it productively and in a way that actually contributes to our community and to the world around us.
Absolutely. And it's going to look different for all of us.
Yes. Yes. Your integrity you're the only one who knows what is true for you.
And you're the only one who knows your progress.
Right.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. Stormie, thank you so much. It's been great to have you back. We love having you on the Weekly Weather. When we had you last time, the comments were flooded with yes, bring Stormie back. We love Stormie. So here you are again, and I'm so happy you're here. And thank you for bringing the grace in the storm, Miss Stormie Grace. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. I love you guys. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Awesome. All right. Thanks everybody so much for being here. Thank you for making astrology a part of your life. And I cannot wait to catch you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
Hello there. It's your weekly horoscope columnist, Christopher Renstrom. And I'm delighted to announce that my much anticipated course with Astrology Hub, the Cosmic Calendar, is now open for enrollment. The Cosmic Calendar is designed to teach you how to turn your birth chart into a personal calendar, one that's uniquely aligned to your natural flow and personal seasons. You'll be able to look at the year ahead and know exactly how to plan your life. Whether you're looking to launch a business, dive back into the dating pool, or finally get around to writing that book you said you'd get around to writing one day, the Cosmic Calendar will help you to identify the best times of year to pursue your dreams. So, if you want to join me for the Cosmic Calendar, you can enroll today by going to astrologyhub.com/cosmic calendar. That's astrologyhub.com/cosmic calendar. It begins on March 3rd. I am so looking forward to seeing you there. We're going to have a lot of fun.